Hey there, everybody. Today we are discussing moths to a flame, protecting your light without dimming it. Now, we are quite the radiant souls, but sometimes we have a tendency to attract like some very emotionally chaotic people. Let's say maybe the wrong people. So if you've ever felt like you are a lighthouse to lost ships, to moths, you're not alone. Now, the two of us can say that we have had our more than our fair share these moths or moths disguised as butterflies, hornets disguised as butterflies, whatever analogy you want to use, we have been subjected to it.
So, yeah, and we have stories for days, but we will not digress to that. But so let's talk about that moth to a flame and that kind of energy. You're a kind person, you're empathetic, you're maybe a little too available. You're always like, hey, how can I help you? What do you need? That sort of thing. And people flock to you. And at first, it feels flattering because you're the helper, you're the healer, you're the one who always picks up the phone. Like when, whether it's, 9 in the morning or 9 o'clock at night, if somebody calls you, especially if it's somebody that doesn't normally call at those times, you're just like, oh my God, I got to get this. But then it starts to feel heavy and you're getting drained, you're exhausted, and then you become resentful. And you're wondering if you need to just change who you are. Like, okay, maybe I don't want to be this way. But here's the truth. It's not your light that's the problem. It's the habit of keeping the porch. Ugh. I love perimenopause or postmenopause because I can never get my words right. Anybody else struggle out there? Make a comment. Let me know. But it's the habit of keeping the porch light on for every moth that flutters by.
Now, and look, my light is beautiful. Your light is beautiful. Folks that are watching, your light is also beautiful. We have this warmth, we have about like a wisdom about us, we have like a sense of humor, and it kind of draws people into us naturally. But the thing is that not everybody deserves front row access to this light that we are giving off. Some people want to just bask in it, in your glow without bringing their own. They're not very like reciprocated, with the energy. And that doesn't feel good. Or worse yet, you'll encounter somebody who puts on this facade that they, are just as, bright and shiny as you are. And they, bring out, some sort of, fakeness that you're like, oh, okay, they're nice and kind. And then it turns out that no, they're not. They're not as wonderful and magical as they seem to be. Instead, they're a narcissist or a psychopath or the worst of them all, and that's a Machiavellian. And if you're like, what's a Machiavellian? I've never heard of that. They are someone who's like super duper like strategic with their manipulations. They do it for personal gain. And then the sad thing is that they do it at the expense of others without ever getting anything dirty on them. And I'm sure that you're probably watching this going, oh my God, like my ex is like this, or that bitch at work is just like that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we have all had like a situation and we've all encountered all sorts of them.
Right. And so when you start to recognize this, because sometimes we go from one job to a new job, and then you're like, why is this same kind of person here? Right. And so what do you do about that? Well, you don't dim your light, you build a screen door. This is where you get intentional about who gets in. You start asking yourself, does this person reciprocate the energy that I am giving? Do they respect my energy? Because sometimes, because we might have a lot of wisdom, we're in midlife, we've been through a lot of experiences. So whether you use your intuition for, a business, or if you just know so many things because you just have had so much experience, and people come and they just take all of that information, but they never give you anything back. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to start to pay attention to, is this person really honoring my energy, or are they just being cunning and deceitful so they can get what they want from me? And start to see that. And so more often than not, it takes time to start seeing if their words match their actions. And at some point, you got to ask yourself, how many red flags do I have to see before I get to the center of this freaking lollipop?
Yeah, so many red flags. Because then it leaves you afterwards like, why didn't I see it? Why didn't I recognize it? And then you start wondering why. And sometimes what it comes down to is that maybe our past or the way we were raised, it taught us that being available equaled being good, or that saying yes made you lovable. But I mean, I know that that's me. I'm one of those that, thinking saying yes or always being available, always bending over backwards was what made me, what somebody would want out of me instead of asking, what do I want out of myself and out of this, interaction. It took a lot of lessons for me to finally learn that boundaries are not rejection. And for anybody watching this, like I'm sure you are thinking about the same scenarios in your life. Like, where do I need to set better boundaries? And where do I need to understand that the boundaries are not the rejection, but instead it's protection for not only yourself, but for the light that you give up so that you don't dim it.
Yeah. Well, and that totally resonates for me too, because I know I have done the same thing. And, when I got divorced the second time, I waited a year before I started dating, and I had been in therapy and that kind of stuff. But then I was like, how in the did I attract the same kind of person? Meaning, how did I attract the same type of chaos into my life?
Yeah.
And I had to start asking myself, what is in my energy that I'm leaving the door open too long? Why am I attracting this? And it was because, like you said, I didn't have those boundaries in place. I just thought if I was nice and kind and, honest with my conversations, that would make the difference. And the thing is, you still can be that way. You can still be radiant, but just with a better filter. I had to learn that. And I took a step back because I wanted to start protecting my energy. And it wasn't to shame the moths that are out there in the world either. It was more of me about, us as women or midlife, we just got to figure out what works and what doesn't work anymore. And understanding that it's not our job to be out there fixing everybody in the world if it's going to drain us. It's not our job to be their GPS system to guide them where they need to go. And you can love people without letting them drain you. You can take care of others without, you know, per, having your boundaries in place, but yet still being able to keep yourself safe. So, honoring that for yourself, and what does that look like for you? Because we all have to, it's kind of like with the eating thing, like we talked about last show, was we just have to figure out what works for us. Because, like, to your point, Cynthia, setting boundaries isn't about keeping people out, it's about keeping your peace.
Yep. Yep. Say it louder for the people in the back.
Don't dim your light, you need to discern, right?
Yes.
Keeping your peace.
100%. Yeah. I know I've been there as well. You wind up beating yourself up over it afterwards because you're like, I should have been more discerning. I should have seen this coming. And then you think that it's your fault that they took advantage. And there might be like a little bit because for those of us that have that bright light, yes, we are just naturally very kind. We are naturally very much, like share a lot or maybe even overshare. But it's because we're expecting people to come to us as we come to them. And the sad part is that that's not really how the majority of the people are out there, and that's not to say that we should stop being this like bright light that we are, this beautiful friend to people. We just need to understand that they're probably not coming at us the same way that we're coming at them. But that we've all been in situations where we can look back and go, oh yeah, I recognized where, I got taken advantage of or where I was a little bit, maybe too forthcoming with some of my information. And this allowed someone to kind of weasel their way in and then at a later date, then use that to manipulate me or to make me feel bad about myself. So no, I'm with you. Do not dim, folks. We need to just have better discernment
Yeah.
and better boundaries.
Yeah. And, if this resonated, share it with someone else who's, glowing a little too hard for the wrong crowd, right? Because we all can tend to do that because we want to be helpers. And especially with the way things are in the world right now, the collective, whichever words you want to use, I think so many of us are searching for what is really our tribe now, because I think, we're finding that some things just don't resonate for us anymore. And, shine your light, but use your discernment.
That's right. Just remember that your light is sacred. Protect your peace like it depends, like your life depends on it, because actually it does. And then remember that you are not broken, you are breaking open.
So thanks for hitting the like, share, and subscribe. And if this resonates, also share this episode with a friend or post it somewhere else for us, because this all helps us grow and keeps us being able to do all of this great stuff for you guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.